Hey, I'm Andre, you know the drill. In my channel, I try to bring thought leaders that are talking about new technologies and new approaches to cybersecurity in the evolving world that we live in. This time around, I reached out to a fellow Brazilian living in Canada to talk about his approach to improving threat detection, improving SOCs, and improving cybersecurity as a whole from a SOC perspective. So hopefully you enjoy the session. Hey everyone, I'd like to introduce the guest of today, Augusto Barros. I'm extremely excited to have him join us, and I'm extremely thankful to have him accept the invite to join us. He's a long-standing cybersecurity community member, especially in, other parts of the world, not just in our region here. But there's no one better to talk about his experience than himself. Augusto, thank you so much for joining.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Andrea. It's a pleasure being here and talking about career. I am at that point where it kind of starts to feel it feels almost like painful because you start realizing how long you've been around, right? So I've been working with cybersecurity for 25 years, right? So I remember it's easy because I started my first kind of security dedicated job. It was in the year 2000, January 2000. So we survived the millennium bug, right? And then I started working on this space, right? I started kind of in a consulting company doing kind of a security analyst type of work. And at that time, there wasn't kind of, as many definitions or say components of the cybersecurity realm. It was everything like kind of information security. So I was doing work on kind of design, but also assessment on network security, some application security, government risk and compliance. Kind of it didn't have a name at that time, right? But a bit of everything. And I think over time, right, kind of as I kind of moved from job to job, right, kind of I moved to some end user organizations like kind of banks and service providers for financial institutions and kind of their security teams, sometimes as a CISO, sometimes kind of taking care of a specific group of that organization. I end up kind of slowly moving towards the security operations space. And then, right, kind of the last 10 years, right, kind of I've been very focused in this space. I joined Gartner at 2015 as an analyst. It was kind of a very exciting job, covering exclusively the security operations space. So looking at everything that a SOC would do, right? Kind of threat detection, response, vulnerability management. And that really kind of gave me a lot of context and visibility into this space to make me want to go to the vendor world, where I could kind of start influencing the solutions, kind of the products, etc. And that's where I've been since then. I joined kind of Profit Security a few months ago on the product side, and we are a AI SOC company. And it's been kind of very hyped space, but also very fun to work and kind of really kind of real solutions coming out of it. So I'm really kind of happy to be working on this.
It's really exciting to have someone with your experience here. And I was also looking back into your previous work, right? And I think you wrote either a blog or a document research for Vectra AI back in 2019.
They probably kind of have used some of my work from Gartner, right? That's where I was at the time. And Vectra was one of the companies that I would cover, right? Because of their presence on the NTA or NDR, kind of whatever you want to call it space.
That's right. And back then you were talking about the SOC visibility triad, right?
Right.
Which is still very relevant to these days, right? A lot of my customers are SOCs or SOC providers, and they leverage, the technology that I work with, which happens to be CrowdStrike. But they look at the technology that they need, the outcomes that they try to propose to customers, and it's great to see you're moving into this kind of space, all the way down to leading to a company that is possibly looking at the future of SOCs, right, with an AI-driven solution. So, yeah, can you tell me a bit about?
Right. I was skeptical about kind of these AI SOC products at the beginning. I was kind of working for a SIEM provider, and I've always been in love with SIEMs, right? Kind of, I really kind of the idea of collecting signals from multiple places and applying detection logic, generating alerts is really something that I'm really excited about, right? And I still am. When kind of all these talk about AI agents or agentic AI kind of started coming into the space, I said, well, maybe this is overhyped. I'm not sure if this will work as all these companies are talking about. But when I started looking more carefully at some of the new providers in this space, or even kind of things that were being done by the more established providers like CrowdStrike, for example, I started realizing that this is the future, right, of security operations. Because these technologies have the potential to dramatically change how security operations teams work, right? Kind of, kind of all that model about having a bunch of level 1 analysts that are just beginning on their right, kind of on their career, and they have some very prescriptive playbooks, right, kind of that they're going to use to investigate and triage alerts, etc., and then move in kind of their findings to someone and level up. And then if it's something that is really an incident or something very hard to right, kind of to understand, it goes to another level of more skilled analysts. I think we're gonna, with this technology, we're gonna turn this thing upside down. There's no really kind of a need for having that level 1 anymore. Is really kind of very repetitive, really kind of boring work. We see people kind of dropping these positions after a couple of months sometimes. And I think the AI technologies have a very strong potential to eliminate, I want to say kind of eliminate the positions, but really kind of rebuild them in a more meaningful type of work way and make those SOCs really kind of far more productive than kind of what they are today.
Yeah, this is something I'm seeing a lot from the need for these SOCs, because there's a lot of research talking about the potential of growth for SOCs, and they need to scale, right? And I think these tools come in to help them scale at the pace that the market is supposedly where it's supposed to go, right?
And there are also kind of many kind of say downstream effects of this, right? For example, when you talk about SOC, many times you're talking about these companies that have the money or the resources to have sometimes 5-10 people or more, right, to work in that specific role or that specific task, right, or detection, kind of a response. But with these new technologies now, you can have SOCs operating with 1, 2, or 3 resources. So the line for organizations that can have their own SOC is really kind of coming down. So many of those that were actually forced to rely on a service provider, for example, they now can do things in-house because they need far less resources than before to have an operation like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point as well. Yeah, the ability to bring this capabilities in-house is quite interesting as well. There's a lot of hype though in AI agents for security. Is there any thoughts on that? I mean, is there anything you can talk about? Some of still the hype or maybe misconceptions that you see from conversations you're having?
Yes, I think kind of the first kind of there is this perception that there will be this fully automated SOC, and I think kind of the AI technology is still very far from allowing that. Like kind of lots of what you have to do with the AI on the more say kind of on the edge cases, right? Kind of things that kind of you're not sure about what it is. Is this a new attack? Is it a completely different way that the attacker is operating? Only humans at this point have the ability to look at these completely unique situations and figure out what's going on. The AI technologies today, if you rely too much on their ability to judge things and you give these edge cases to them, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to misjudge those things. If you take all the precautions to avoid that misjudgment, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you, I don't know what it is. Someone have to take a look at it, right? And this is actually kind of, I think, kind of where the direction where kind of the more responsible providers are going is given the technology the ability to say, I don't know. I need a human to come in and make a judgment here and look at all the evidence that I collected, that I prepared for you to read in an easier manner, but I cannot judge considering everything that kind of I've done at this point. I think kind of the hype comes in these expectation that you're going to have this magical model that is trained in a lot of security data, so now it knows everything is the best possible kind of security analyst. You throw any kind of alert to it and it magically figures out what it is. No, there are no shortcuts like that. There's a lot of work involved in building these solutions, and what they can do today is still not up to the same level of judgment as a human. They can be faster than humans for typical cases, right? So if it is one of those, okay, there's a suspicious sign-in, someone kind of coming with a different browser from a different location, where you have to look at all the evidence around that case and determine if that's malicious or not. That's a very typical case where the machine will do better than humans, because it is a very easy process to understand, right? Kind of they do not have to think that much. They essentially have to execute steps that are well understood. But when you have those more complex cases, they will fail, right? And that's kind of where we have to have the humans engaged.
And I think this subject kind of gets into something I want to talk about, which is your presence in the Australian conference, your upcoming presence, right? Which is to talk about how to improve threat detection. Is that correct?
Right. Kind of the title, right, of my session there is how to improve threat detection resilience.
Yes.
And this is a topic that is not often covered by researchers on a threat detection space, right? Because usually what we want to do is, let's have better threat detection, detect more threats, or detect threats better. Right? Kind of one of my former colleagues in Gartner, we used to, whenever we were looking into new threat detection technologies, we would classify them in one of those two buckets, right? You do what you already know how to do better in a more efficient manner, or you can do things that you weren't able to do before, like and you find threats that you weren't able to find before. But I think all the improvements on detection are in that sense, right? Let's reduce false positives, or let's find threats that we missed before. Mm-hmm. But when you look into how organizations deploy detection, it's so common to see situations where a single technology, if it is not operating properly or misconfigured, they will miss a lot of detections, right? Or a rule that is not properly configured and you start missing a lot of things. So many opportunities for detection to fail just because of small changes, either on the detection systems or detection processes, or even on the environment. So what happens is threat detection in general is brittle, right? It breaks easily. Right? And we've been working on coverage from the threats and systems point of view, efficiency, but small changes here, small changes there, and it breaks. It doesn't find what it should be finding anymore. So my talk on this conference is about what we can do with our detection processes, technologies, etc., to avoid the entire thing to fail because of small situations or small events, or just one piece failing and then everything breaks. Trying to make detection more resilient and not only better, from that efficiency and efficacy point of view.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'll be trying to join the conference just to watch your talk. That sounds like a very important topic. Many of my customers are concerned with the rule changes and how, minor rule changes can effectively cause this effect you mentioned, right? Break the threat detections that they have set up. So it's quite topical. That's quite interesting. Look, Augusto, mindful of the time and of course the conversation we've had, are there any last thoughts you'd like to leave?
I have my blog on blog.securitybalance.com. It's still right there, not as much as before. I'd say before the social media times, that was usually the channel where I put my thoughts, research, etc. I think sometime later it migrated to Twitter, then to the Gartner environment while I was an analyst. And now it's mostly on LinkedIn. So if people want to look for Augusto Barros on LinkedIn, most of what I write, etc., will be there. And those are where I try to put my stuff out there.
Sounds good. Look, you're going to be able to find all of that in the description. I'm going to make a link to them. Other than that, I'd like to thank you for your presence once again, Augusto. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
So I hope you enjoyed the chat. I sure did. Once again, thanks to the guest, Augusto, for joining me. And if you want to follow him, of course, more sources in the description. And of course, leave a like and share and subscribe for more information, for more cybersecurity content. All right, see you next time.